Drug use, tragic accidents, and senseless violence. Some of our favorite child stars were shockingly taken from us far too soon. Keep watching to learn about the former child stars whose lives took a turn toward tragedy. On July 21st, 2025, TMZ first broke the news that Malcolm Jamal-Warner, best known for The Cosby Show, had died at the age of 54. A source told the tabloid that the cause was accidental drowning. People magazine later confirmed Warner's death, with the source saying the actor had been in Costa Rica vacationing with his family. Costa Rican National Police later told ABC News that Warner died near a beach in Limon after being caught in a strong current and that his body was found the afternoon before the news broke. Warner spent his teenage years growing up on TV. He was 14 when The Cosby Show debuted and 18 when his character Theo Huxtable guest starred in the college spin-off A Different World. Warner and the rest of the Cosby cast dominated the 80s. At just 16, Warner even hosted an episode of Saturday Night Live. Warner stayed busy into the 90s and beyond, including starring in the UPN sitcom Malcolm and Eddie and voicing the producer on The Magic School Bus, a role close to home as Warner was also an executive producer for the iconic PBS series.
Hi, you work on The Magic School Bus show, right?
You bet, I'm the producer.
More recently, Warner hosted the podcast Not All Hood, which takes a look at the lived experiences and identities of Black people in America, dropping a new episode just 2 days before his tragic death.
The concept is like what the media shows us is one side of Black culture.
TMZ reported that although Warner was survived by a wife and daughter, he had chosen not to share their names on social media, keeping his family life private. Lee Thompson Young was the star of Disney's The Famous Jet Jackson from 1998 to 2001. He then landed a role in the 2004 hit Friday Night Lights, followed by small gigs on television and in film. His most recent part was in the crime series Rizzoli and Isles from 2010 to 2013.
Frost.
Let's tie my shoe.
Shoes don't have laces.
Around this time, however, Young struggled with bipolar disorder and depression and was reportedly treating his mental health. According to the New York Daily News, the 29-year-old died by suicide in August 2013. The cast and crew of the crime drama were understandably devastated by his death, saying in an official statement, "We are beyond heartbroken at the loss of this sweet, gentle, good-hearted, intelligent man." His parents later set up a foundation in his name to aid other young people dealing with mental health issues. They told WIS-TV, "Some of a person's inner life you really don't know. People know that Lee wasn't the only one, and for them to see everything he accomplished in the 29 years, it's more than some people accomplish their whole lives. He was able to do that with a mental illness, and yes, it ended tragically, but through that, we're inspired." Corey Haim had a meteoric rise in Hollywood alongside best friend Corey Feldman, starring in 1980s films such as The Lost Boys. However, behind the scenes, Feldman said that the young actors were sexually abused by industry insiders. In 2016, he told The Hollywood Reporter, "With me, there were some molestations, but with Corey Haim, his was direct rape. I believe that Haim's rapist was probably connected to something bigger, and that is probably how he has remained protected for all these years." For his part, Haim never publicly spoke about his alleged abuser. However, he sadly struggled with substance abuse as he grew older. The former child star died on March 10, 2010, reportedly from drug-induced pneumonia. He was 38. Some reports suggested Haim was clean for weeks leading up to his death. However, the Los Angeles Times later stated that Haim was allegedly addicted to prescription medications and had been doctor shopping to get access to them. Toxicology reports and an autopsy indicated long-term damage to his lungs and heart from years of excessive drug use. To add insult to injury, Haim was omitted from the In Memoriam segment at the 2011 Academy Awards, a move that didn't sit well with friends and fans. When Knoxville, Tennessee native Brad Renfro was 10, he starred in 1994's The Client. The young actor went on to appear in Apt Pupil in 1998 alongside Sir Ian McKellen, as well as a slew of other hit movies. But Renfro reportedly had a tough time adjusting to life in Los Angeles. His parents divorced, and sources cited by TMZ claimed he did not have real guidance from adults as he tried navigating the treacherous movie industry. He also struggled with substance abuse, particularly heroin, and was even charged with grain theft for allegedly trying to steal a yacht in 2000. On January 15, 2008, the Los Angeles Times reported that Renfro died at the age of 25 from an accidental heroin overdose, despite those close to him saying he'd been working on his sobriety.
I've never been happier. I feel clear, I feel great.
The Los Angeles County coroner said it was possible that Renfro had injected a dose of heroin typical for his days of heavier drug use. Like Haim, Renfro was also not included in the Oscars in Memoriam segment that year. Judith Barsi appeared in dozens of commercials and had numerous bit parts on television before her big break in 1987's Jaws: The Revenge. Barsi also famously voiced Ducky in 1988's The Land Before Time. However, while her acting career was undeniably impressive, the child star's home life was terrifying. Barsi and her mother Maria Vivrovax were both subjected to domestic abuse by Judith's alleged alcoholic father, Joseph Barsi. The violence escalated, resulting in tragedy when authorities from social services reportedly failed to intervene. Judith was just 10 years old when she was shot and killed by Joseph moments before he killed himself, either on or around July 25, 1988. Judith's final film was All Dogs Go to Heaven, which played in theaters the year after her death in the murder-suicide.
Goodbyes aren't forever.
Then, goodbye, Charlie. I love you.
A spokesperson for Judith's acting agency told the Los Angeles Times she was very successful with every door open to her. There's no telling how far she would have gone. For Scotty Beckett, life after Our Gang, aka Little Rascals, was both brief and sad. He began acting at just 4 years old and transitioned to movies in the late 1930s. He signed on with MGM, but his busy career stalled after adolescence, and he eventually gave up showbiz. According to the Eugene Register-Guard, Beckett was arrested multiple times on drunkenness or drunk driving charges. In 1957, he was booked again for allegedly trying to cross the U.S.-Mexican border in possession of 250 stimulant pills. He logged a long list of other reported run-ins with the law, stemming from various alleged offenses like hitting his teenage stepdaughter and writing bounced checks. The Eugene Register-Guard reported, during one of Beckett's appearances in court, a judge told the former child star to grow up and start acting like a man. In 1962, Beckett reportedly attempted suicide. However, he would go on for 6 more years until 1968, when he passed away only 2 days after being admitted into a rest home. The autopsy was inconclusive, but an overdose was suspected. Beckett was 38. River Phoenix landed his breakout role on 7 Brides for 7 Brothers in 1982 when he was just 11 years old. He went on to star in Stand By Me in 1986 and My Own Private Idaho in 1991.
I could love someone even if I wasn't paid for it.
Though he had a reputation as one of the cleanest living stars in Hollywood, he grew up in a family fervently opposed to drugs, meat, and alcohol. Phoenix died of heart failure at Johnny Depp's Viper Room on Halloween in 1993. Phoenix's close friend, musician Bob Forrest, later said that drugs were the norm within their showbiz circle. Forrest wrote in his book, Running with Monsters, the drug routine stayed pretty consistent for all of us. First, smoke crack or shoot coke directly into a vein for that 90-second electric brain bell jangle, then shoot heroin to get a grip and come down enough to be able to carry on a conversation for a few minutes before you start the cycle again. He added about the fateful Halloween night, River was obviously wasted and was as unsteady as a boxer who had taken one too many headshots during a 15-round bout. Forrest also claimed that just before Phoenix began seizing, he told him, "Bob, I don't feel so good. I think I'm ODing." Phoenix was pronounced dead at the hospital on arrival. He was 23 years old. Poltergeist star Heather O'Rourke had just reprised her role as Carol Ann in 1988's Poltergeist 3 when she fell deathly ill. According to the Los Angeles Times, O'Rourke died on February 1, 1988, while undergoing surgery at the Children's Hospital of San Diego. She'd been admitted for stomach pain, but doctors discovered she'd had a bowel obstruction called intestinal stenosis since birth. The condition caused her to go into severe septic shock, which brought on cardiac and pulmonary arrest. She was only 12 years old. According to her former manager, Mike Meyer, of all the things she was proud of, she was proudest of being elected president of her 5th grade class at Big Bear Elementary School. The tragic death of this young scream queen added to the so-called poltergeist curse, which kick-started when Dominique Dunn, who played O'Rourke's older sister, was murdered shortly after the first film premiered in 1984. Dana Plato starred as Kim Drummond on Different Strokes from 1978 when she was 14 until 1984 when her alleged drug use led to her character being written out of the show. The former child star was unfortunately unable to achieve the same level of success, subsequently turning to B-movies and eventually adult films. ABC News reported that Plato was arrested twice in the early 90s, once for allegedly forging a prescription for Valium and previously for reportedly attempting an armed robbery at a video store. On May 8, 1999, Plato died of an alleged accidental overdose of prescription drugs. She was 34. One day prior to her death, Plato had appeared on Howard Stern's radio show and agreed to a hair follicle test to prove she was clean. Stern later told the New York Post that the star had asked him not to test her hair that day. Sadly, the tragedy didn't end there. Plato's son, 25-year-old Tyler Lambert, reportedly died by suicide in 2010, per the New York Daily News. Different Strokes star Gary Coleman's life was never exactly easy. The actor was born with congenital health issues that stunted his growth to 4 feet 8 inches, as well as a condition called nephritis, resulting in 2 kidney transplants by the time he was 14 years old. Despite the sitcom's massive success, earning Coleman close to $100,000 per episode, he unfortunately struggled to find work after the series ended. According to People, the star had filed for bankruptcy, losing an $18 million fortune by 1999.
Getting told, don't spend so much. Don't spend so much. Don't spend so much. Why?
He faced legal issues as well as financial ones, with lawsuits and minor criminal charges plaguing his later years. In 2008, Coleman married Shannon Price, his first ever romantic relationship. However, the marriage was ultimately odd and turbulent, as demonstrated by court docs obtained by Forbes in the legal battle over his estate. In May 2010, Coleman was hospitalized after a fall in his home led to him suffering a brain hemorrhage, from which he never recovered. Per People, the 42-year-old actor died in the hospital on May 28, 2010, after his loved ones removed him from life support. Starting when he was just 7 years old, Carl Switzer starred as the freckle-faced alfalfa in the series of Our Gang shorts, which charmed audiences throughout the 1930s. He dabbled in acting after his time as a child star ended, but mostly worked odd jobs to get by, per history. He also weathered multiple run-ins with the law during his life, but his final days as a divorced former actor took a darker turn in January 1959. Sadly, it seems that Switzer's life was ended over a petty fight about a $50 debt. As the Los Angeles Times reported at the time, he had covered the amount as reward money when his associate, Moses Stiltz's lost dog, was found and returned. When he went over to collect the $50 from Stiltz, the confrontation turned into a physical fight, and the actor was fatally shot. Switzer was only 31 when he died while being transported to a nearby hospital for treatment. At just 8 years old, Skye McCole Bartusiak found fame as Mel Gibson's quiet daughter in the historical epic The Patriot, which hit box offices in 2000. She went on to star as Megan Matheson in 24 from 2002 to 2003. Afterward, the Texas-born actor landed bit parts in TV series like House and even voiced young Kate on Lost. On July 19, 2014, Bartusiak died in her sleep from an accidental overdose of prescription drugs and inhalants, as Fox News reported. Bartusiak's mother, Helen, told CNN that her daughter had been dealing with epileptic seizures before her death. Bartusiak was 21 at the time. During her funeral, the star's brother, Steven, said, "If you want to remember her, remember that smile and remember that laugh. If you want to know what makes Skye happy, go out and plant a tree." Norman Chaney starred as Chubby in the Our Gang film series from 1929 until 1931. His charisma and comic timing should have set him up to be a star, but health issues got in the way. He died in 1936 at just 21 years old after undergoing surgery for a glandular condition, which caused him to lose a dramatic amount of weight. The Baltimore Sun reported that Chaney's mother couldn't afford a headstone for her son when he died, since the young Our Gang actors were only paid a small weekly stipend and never received royalties or residuals. But in 2012, 76 years after his death, a number of Baltimore-based fans decided to raise enough money to purchase markers for both Chaney and his mom. Rock musician McCole, who led the campaign, observed, "I think they were taking care of their hometown son. It's really Baltimore that made this happen." Everybody Loves Raymond star Sawyer Sweeten and his identical twin Sullivan Sweeten got their start as babies on the hit sitcom in 1996. The boys didn't act after the series ended in 2005, and the National Enquirer reported that Sawyer was in debt and struggling with depression after dealing with bullying and loneliness. On April 23, 2015, at the age of 19, the former child star died by suicide while he and his twin visited family in Texas. Speaking on the Dr. Oz show in 2016, Sullivan said his brother had a tough time contending with all the normal childhood experiences he'd missed by acting. Afterwards, he had a bit more of a cynical attitude toward it. We both definitely enjoyed being on the show. I think it was afterwards when we realized how much school we missed and how little we got to socialize with other kids. I think he kind of blamed Hollywood for that a little bit. Billy Laughlin was far from the only child star from the Our Gang film franchise to meet a sudden and tragic fate, but he was the youngest member of the gang to die. At 8 years old, Laughlin was talent scouted and cast as Froggy, making his debut in the franchise in 1940. He stood out because of his distinctive croaky voice, justifying his on-screen counterpart's nickname. When the long-running series ended 4 years later, he only made one more motion picture before leaving show business. At age 16, Laughlin's attempt to become a normal teenager with a paper route went disastrously wrong. He was struck by a car while delivering newspapers on a motor scooter alongside a friend. The young actor's injuries turned out to be fatal, and he died on August 31, 1948. Biographer Laura June Kenny noted in her book, Fleeing the Fates of the Little Rascals, that Laughlin's well-publicized death didn't stop imitators with similar voices from claiming they were the original Froggy for years afterward. Josh Ryan Evans got his showbiz start at 14, operating the body of a puppet on Family Matters. His celebrated debut was followed by a breakout role in Ally McBeal, and then his best-known role as Timmy on the soap opera Passions. His dwarfism allowed him to keep playing child characters, like the younger version of Jim Carrey's titular character, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, because he only ever grew to 3 feet 2 inches. Evans reportedly had a mantra that allowed him to stay positive in the face of his medical issues, quoted by Reuters as, "It's not the size of the dreamer, it's the size of the dream."
Well, if you're resigned to working in a crummy job, you should at least figure out where the so-called crummy job is going to get you.
According to USA Today, Evans died at the age of 20 on August 5, 2002, the very same day his on-screen character was killed off on Passions. On the soap, Timmy had been gravely injured during a physical altercation. In real life, Evans died during surgery for his heart condition. Matthew Garber was a British child actor most famous for starring as Michael Banks in the magical Disney classic Mary Poppins when he was only 8 years old. He played bit parts in other Disney films like The Gnome-Mobile before eventually retiring from acting as a teen. According to Glamour, he was later diagnosed with hepatitis, a disease that fatally spread to his pancreas. The actor sadly succumbed to pancreatitis on June 13, 1977 at the age of 21. According to the Disney Archives, Karen Dautrice, who played Garber's on-screen sister in Mary Poppins, recalled of Garber, "He was how he looked, an imp, and I loved being his shadow." She added that he made filming fun with his rule-breaking antics, like leaping around the movie set. Matthew had a great sense of fun and danger, and he did live a full life over his 21 years. Bobby Driscoll was the voice and model for Disney's Peter Pan in 1953. However, his longtime partnership with the studio stalled when he was a teen suffering from severe acne. According to the National Enquirer, the Treasure Island actor struggled to adapt after he was dropped by Disney. He found it incredibly difficult to find acceptance from his peers as a normal school-aged kid, and he turned to drugs as a coping mechanism. Driscoll once told the Los Angeles Times, "I was 17 when I first experimented with the stuff. In no time, I was using whatever was available, mostly heroin because I had the money to pay for it." Arrests for check forgery and drug possession, even a stint behind bars, would follow. But tragedy struck in March 1968 when a couple of children discovered the 31-year-old actor's body in an abandoned Greenwich Village apartment building. Per Driscoll's website, he initially was not identified and was buried in an unmarked grave. According to the autopsy report, his arteries had hardened as a result of his longtime excessive drug use, resulting in heart failure. Driscoll's body was identified when the NYPD conducted a fingerprint test at the request of the former child star's mother. She reportedly did not disclose her son's death to the public until the 1971 re-release of his first Disney film, Song of the South. Michael Cuccione starred as Jason QT McKnight in Together, an MTV original film spoofing boy bands. According to MTV News, the teen had been diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease when he was 9 years old, but after aggressive chemotherapy, radiation, and a bone marrow transplant, he went into remission and became cancer-free. However, the treatment permanently weakened his lungs. Cuccione reportedly used a portable oxygen tank on the set of Together. A shocking car accident led to Cuccione developing pneumonia, which tragically claimed his life on January 13, 2001, when he was just 16 years old. His uncle told MTV News, "His lungs just gave out. We weren't really expecting it." Cuccione's loved ones and fans, his former Together castmates, and his friend, actor David Hasselhoff, gathered to celebrate his life as an actor and advocate. Cuccione had raised $2 million for cancer research by writing a book and releasing music. His family have kept the Michael Cuccione Foundation going in his memory. His father explained to Vancouver's City News, "He was an amazing boy. He was so positive. It makes it so much easier for us as a family to want to continue his legacy." Natalie Wood first won over audiences as a child in Miracle on 34th Street, but she remained a popular actor until her bizarre death at sea at the age of 43. In 1981, the West Side Story star was on board a yacht with her husband Robert Wagner and actor Christopher Walken when a mysterious accident led to her death by drowning. Wood's sister Lana was skeptical about the idea that she had taken a dinghy out from the yacht by herself, as the former child star had a lifelong fear of water and never learned to swim. Wagner, who was named as a person of interest years later, eventually admitted that they had all argued that night. Wagner wrote in his autobiography, Pieces of My Heart, "Nobody knows. There are only two possibilities. Either she was trying to get away from the argument, or she was trying to tie the dinghy. But the bottom line is that nobody knows exactly what happened." Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Laurence Olivier, Gregory Peck, and Frank Sinatra were all honorary pallbearers at Wood's funeral, as the Washington Post reported. Actor Roddy McDowall concluded in his eulogy, "She has given us a slice of life and serenity."
I guess I was sort of extroverted or something, and I was this sort of a friendly little kid, and I liked to talk to people.
Tragedy struck in 2016 when Anton Yelchin died at age 27 in a freak SUV accident. The Star Trek fan favorite had been working since he was a child, but he achieved international fame by joining the sci-fi reboot as the Russian officer Chekhov. Police confirmed to CBS News that Yelchin had been killed by his 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee after he left the vehicle and it rolled back down the driveway of his Los Angeles home. The county coroner's office concluded that the actor's death was accidental and named blunt traumatic asphyxia as the cause. His parents later settled with the car company, per USA Today, following a lawsuit over the tragic death. After the news broke, Yelchin was honored with a statue in the Hollywood Cemetery. His Star Trek co-star Zoe Saldana said at the ceremony,
"But it really alleviates my heart to know that we're going to keep him alive."
His parents later helped to create a documentary about his legacy called Love, Antosha. Disney Channel star Cameron Boyce was only 20 years old when he died due to complications from epilepsy in July 2019. Boyce had earned an army of loyal fans through his performances in Descendants and Jessie, but he was also known for his philanthropy. The actor raised more than $27,000 single-handedly for the clean water charity Thirst Project, per Teen Vogue. After confirming Cameron's passing in his sleep, a spokesperson for the Boyce family said, "We are still trying to navigate our way through this extremely heart-wrenching time and continue to ask for privacy." Tributes soon poured in from Boyce's many famous friends and co-stars. Adam Sandler tweeted in tribute to Boyce, "Just the nicest, most talented, and most decent kid around. Loved that kid. Cared so much about his family. Cared so much about the world." The shocking fate of Johnny Lewis made headlines in 2012 when the actor, who had appeared as a teen in shows like Malcolm in the Middle and Seventh Heaven, was found dead after killing his 81-year-old landlady. Lewis was 28. Best known as Half-Sack in the TV series Sons of Anarchy, the actor suffered a head injury in a 2011 motorcycle accident, which led to a years-long downward spiral, including repeated arrests. According to a probation report published by CBS News, authorities had found that he struggled with chemical dependency, mental illness, and homelessness. After a string of violent episodes, Lewis murdered his landlady and fell off her building to his death. The autopsy report did not find any drugs in his system, ruling out the possibility of a drug-induced psychosis. Kurt Sutter, the creator of Sons of Anarchy, tweeted of the events, "It was a tragic end for an extremely talented guy who unfortunately had lost his way. I am deeply sorry that an innocent life had to be thrown into his destructive path." After appearing in the 6th Harry Potter film, 18-year-old Rob Knox was tragically killed while protecting his little brother in a knife fight at a bar. A teenager who had been acting since childhood played star student Marcus Belby in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, something he considered his big break. One friend who witnessed the fight told The Guardian, "Rob was just trying to help out. He was like that." The assailant in question, 21-year-old Carl Bishop, had 2 weapons on him, however, and managed to stab Knox while the actor was holding him down. He was rushed to a London hospital and quickly pronounced dead. Knox's parents emphasized his kind spirit in a statement to The Guardian. "Rob was kind and thoughtful and would always help out others. He would spend his last penny on other people instead of himself. The life and soul of the party. He was very outgoing, loved sports, and would always strike up a conversation with people." The cast and crew of Harry Potter donned white ribbons around their wrist at the premiere of the 6th film to pay tribute to Knox. In 2020, the popular independent documentary Knox, the Rob Knox Story, was released, intended to raise awareness around street violence. Hollywood lost one of its brightest stars when Brittany Murphy died at age 32. Murphy had been starring in TV and film since she was 13 and became beloved thanks to her magnetic performances in movies like Clueless and Uptown Girls.
I was trying to take a step forward, but I took 2 steps backward instead. And
Why
now
don't
I've
you take
realized.
1 step sideways, and then we could just stop doing this silly little dance.
In 2009, she collapsed and went into cardiac arrest at her California home, per the Los Angeles Times, and was pronounced dead after being rushed to a hospital. Speaking with BBC News, her former co-star Alicia Silverstone said of her passing, "I loved working with Brittany. She was so talented, so warm, and so sweet. I feel love in my heart for her and hope she is at peace. This is truly sad." As CNN reported, the autopsy ruled that Murphy had been suffering from pneumonia and multiple drug intoxications due to the over-the-counter medications she was taking to manage her flu-like symptoms. The cause of her death is still debated, however, as her widower, Simon Monjack, died soon after under very similar circumstances. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Murphy's mother later filed a lawsuit claiming that toxic mold in their home might have led to her daughter's illness. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK-8255.